terms of what we both offer at our organizations within the USBC and within NGLCC. What I will say is about myself, and then I can talk a little bit about the organization in particular that I'm sort of representing here today. Specifically, my name is Ron Busby, Jr. I'm the head of product at ByBlack. The point of ByBlack is really trying to provide uh, the customer's capital and community for Black business owners. And so how do we ultimately connect those? It really is through things like certification. For us, we think that it is a key component of being able to make sure that people can identify as Black-owned businesses and get the value of diverse certifications. And from my perspective, what really matters most is letting people know that these tools are available to them. We offer our certification at no cost, and we really want to remove excuses from both sides of the funnel. When we talk to corporations, they might say, hey, look, I'm looking for Black businesses. I don't know where to find them. And we talk to Black businesses and they'll say, I would definitely do business with these companies if I knew which ones cared about my Black business. And so for us to sit in the middle and say, look, we're going to kind of try to remove that gap is really important. What I'll also add here is just the importance of this conversation writ large. At the end of the day, 40% of the LGBTQ community identifies as persons of color, but 12% of that population identifies as Black. We want to make sure that certifications, that opportunities, if they don't work for all of us, they don't work for any of us. And so, when we recognize the fact that 1 in 9 to 1 in 10 of us identifies as both LGBTQ plus and as Black, it's really important that it's a substantive community that we want to serve in intricate and nuanced ways. And that's the value of bringing together this conversation. So, Olivia, please go forward.
Thanks, Ron. I love that introduction. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olivia Jesme. I use she, her pronouns. I am the Vice President of Supplier Inclusion and Education at NGLCC, so I oversee the certification process here. As Ron mentioned, certification is really important. I will dive into that, but one of the things I mentioned to Ron when we first talked is that these certifications are something that we don't have enough people knowing about, right? This certifications open up a lot of doors for your business to get corporate contracts and to meet and network with other individuals. So little background, the NGLCC is a national organization that does certifications for the LGBTQ business owners. So you have to be 51% owned and operated by someone in the LGBT community. I think one of the cool things about the community is that it definitely encompasses a lot of different races and ethnicities, which is really awesome. And as Ron had mentioned, the percentages that we do have. So our certification is actually, you do have to pay for the certification, but your certification fee is waived if you are a member of an affiliate chamber. And we have affiliate chamber in a number of different states, a few of them excuse me, we have a few in each state. So we have that. We can definitely connect you with an affiliate if you need to. We also have a Communities of Color initiative, and myself and Sean Franklin, who I seen pop in the chat, thanks for being here, Sean, actually oversee that. And that is our Communities of Color community in the LGBTQ space. And I bring that up because we actually have a scholarship that one of our corporate partners is so lovingly giving to us to provide to that community, our communities of color. So if you are interested, we do have that scholarship for you to be able to sign up. It waives your actual fee to the affiliate chamber, which then waives your fee for certification. It's a great way to connect with corporate partners, but also other LGBTQ owned businesses. A lot of companies aren't at the scale to do business with corporate partners, and we are very well aware of that. Some of you all want to do small business and business to business. And that's a great space to be able to connect with other businesses that are like-minded, but also connect with businesses that you can probably learn from, or just create a bigger network and a better sense of communication. We've actually been doing this certification process for over 20 years now and have over 2,800 certified LGBTBEs at this point and still constantly growing. So the network is there. We have the corporates that are willing and ready to do business with you in your organization. It's just getting you some visibility, which is where the dual certification will definitely come into place here.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that it might be really helpful to do is kind of set the stage and just talk about a little bit of, why we think that dual certifications are important, why we think certifications are important. I'm happy to give my 2 cents, but if Olivia, if you want to go first, let me know. Um,
Yeah, I can. So, with dual certifications, looking at, so I have a background in procurement. I came from corporate space, and supplier diversity, and a lot of these corporate companies want to spend money with specific groups. So they have goals for LGBTQ spend, they have goals for minority Black business spend. And it's basically like a two for one special. That's how I like to think about it. Because if you have your LGBTQ certification and then your ByBlack certification, that makes you so much more marketable to a company. If they're like, I want to spend this money with an LGBTQ business, but then can still report that same spend as a Black owned business, that for them is like a two for one special. So it definitely opens your doors. And if there are companies like, hey, I just want to spend money with an LGBTQ owned business, you have that. And if they're looking for specifically a Black owned business, whether it's through Black History Month events or different programmings, then they have you also in that category. So it definitely opens up the possibility to get contracts or just different opportunities with the different spaces that you qualify in.
yeah,
Ron, I'll turn it over to you.
And I think, for us, we often joke that Black businesses exist outside of February, right? And they exist outside of Juneteenth. And so, what is our responsibility to do this work and connect the gaps writ large? We have a number of companies that are reaching out to us on a weekly, daily basis, asking for really unique and bespoke questions. Hey, we're looking for folks that can make mannequins for our stores. We got Black owned businesses that do that. We got folks that are asking for people who can do trucking for specific projects that are taking things across the country. We've got Black businesses that can do that. For us, it's really about being able to fill gaps um, in the time and in the moment where those opportunities are. And when it means to democratize access, that requires us to make sure that there are rooms that you may not be in that we are ultimately getting asked to participate in as chambers that are thinking about this. And how do we ultimately bring you into that conversation? And one of that is just by creating directories, creating repositories of your information so that we can be really great advocates for you in those opportunities. At least in my head, in the years that we've been doing this, one of the big things that we've really tried to think about is how do we make sure that we can remove as many barriers to entry when it comes to certification as possible. Historically, for Black people, when we want to get certified, you'd be identified as maybe a minority business, and you would then sort of prove your minority status through your Blackness. We really wanted to say, how do we actually think about how do we put Black people first in that discourse? And we can talk a little bit more about our processes. And then I know that we don't have to get into every granular detail, but I really want people to have an appreciation for the thoughtfulness that each of us are thinking about when it comes to our communities and our constituencies, because we know that you all deserve tools that are tech savvy, are thoughtful, and that are also thinking about how to get your business. One of the things that's on our list that we've heard from people as we've talked about this dual certification is really just talking about what are some of the things that the landscape around the LGBTQ business space and the Black business space. From our perspective at ByBlack and US Black Chambers, we've done a lot of great research on this that I'm happy to share. But Olivia, I'd love for you to maybe give some perspective on where you're seeing certain things and how your perspective is in this climate.
And so I know that the noise in the media is loud, but I will say that we do have a lot of corporate partners who are still on board and still really and ready to spend. We had the opportunity to attend WeBank last week, and a lot of our corporate partners were there and really excited about their spend and the goals that they are setting, and really trying to tap into our supply base to figure out who they can do business with. So a lot of these companies are still very eager to spend. One specifically I know is United, and they've reached out to us a lot about their LGBTQ spend and being thoughtful about making that happen. And so we are still partnered with a lot of organizations who have that top of mind, and that is one of their big goals. So on our end, it sounds shaky outside, but we are still going and continuing business as usual. We are still onboarding suppliers monthly, and that keeps up ticking. And we are also actually opening up another certification that's for our allied businesses as well, coming soon. So it really is our organization is really still opening doors for our LGBTQ organizations, but also our allies as well, to be at that table. And it's a lot of things that our corporates are really grateful for, as the fact that we're still bringing and being intentional about bringing suppliers into our organization.
Yeah, I think that from our perspective, we know that there are headwinds. And so it'd be naive of us to say that, hey, identifying as a diverse business does not have, has no questions, there's no externalities, you should not be worried about this at all. What I do want to also provide is some context, right? So one really great stat that we have tracked, and I can give you some stuff from the past few years and also from this year. One is that it's about 13% of Americans say that they buy from a Black-owned business on a weekly basis. For Black Americans who are under the age of 35, it's about 40% of them shop from Black business on a weekly basis. People want to ultimately engage with Black business. We put out a research paper that you're welcome to check out on the USBC's website. And one of the questions we asked, among a number of them, around certifications and whether or not getting certified and seeing this product as a certified product would change your appetite to buy. Consumers were 30% more likely to buy a product when identified as Black owned, explicitly saying that it was actually who it was. And what we really got from that is also connecting this other piece of research that came from the report, which was that 69% of consumers said that they understand and believe that racism is inherent in our economies, education system, and politics. And this is not just us talking to people that we agree with. We talked to 5,000 people across the country in different segments and pockets to understand where people feel about this. And for us, that really gives us a sense that there is a positive sense that regardless of what's going out there in the climate, that people understand very directly in the community what's going on. One other stat that I will just bring, because we're talking about this all the time, there's this great report that came out and it said, what do you as a regular consumer individual believe about DEI? And they said, asked across 15 different categories and question segments. It said that 55% of consumers were supportive of DEI, whether that was getting educational programs, whether that was, that 82% of Americans were supportive of DEI. And that could be things like educational programs, that could be like rooms for mothers to pump breast milk, that could be things like programs for veterans across the spectrum. But when they asked if their neighbors, if their community members also supported DEI, only 55% of consumers believed that. And what that said is that 27% gap, where I believe that something is good and right, and I believe that creating equity, diversity, inclusion is important, that 27% gap where people aren't sure, that's actually where we are responsible for speaking out loud and being very vocal about the fact that this stuff matters and that consumers do care about it. We just need to let them know that, hey, but there are tools and there are solutions like NGLCC and ByBlack that are trying to close that gap. I'm not sure if Olivia, you have any thoughts, or I can also move on to some of the other things. I know we've got a long list and I don't want to ramble too much, but you might have some feedback as well.
No, I'm good with that one. I think you did an awesome job of covering that.
In terms of, maybe you can also potentially give some background on your organization, the history of NGLCC. You've talked about doing certification for 20 years, but I'm sure you've been doing more than that for more than that time. I think it's just really important to give people a level set on what you all have been doing and where you all are in the climate.
Yeah, so there's a lot that happens within NGLCC. We have our different programs for our business owners to help promote the growth. So the NGLCC certification was started, as I mentioned, about 20 plus years ago. And the goal of this certification is to bring visibility to the LGBT community in the corporate space. Um, I'm not sure if you all know, but supplier diversity, the spaces that it covers is minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, LGBTQ-owned businesses, disabled and disadvantaged businesses as well. Um, and so in that space, of course, where the LGBTQ comes in the space, and that's new. The national organization was actually the one that founded that. And as I said, have now been the only organization, LGBT organization that does the certifications for this. We've created some other programming for our businesses like mentorship programs. We have a lot of our corporate partners that come in to give sessions. We have like a session called I Lead, where we have different cohorts that go through sessions about business growth, how to scale your business, opportunities that they should look for. We also have over 450 corporate partners who have signed on over the years and continuously growing as we signed on a few this year alone, which is why I mean for us is that business as usual is still continuing. Outside of those programs, we have our Best of the Best, which is our Unity Week in November, where we actually highlight a lot of our corporate partners for their spend and for their dedication to the DE&I movement and supplier diversity. And that's actually joined with NBIC, which the US BC is a part of. And so we come together every year to make sure that we kind of shout out those corporations for the work that they are doing and continuously trying to do with our organizations in creating that growth. And we also have other programs that come up with our corporate partners where we can send businesses out to different programming. So like we have one coming up where actually we just had one where we sent I think 3 or 4 businesses to Aspen Ideas. So we're constantly partnering with different organizations to continue to bring more opportunities to our businesses. As we continue to grow our program here at NGLCC, but it's something that is still continuously growing as we're bringing on corporate partners, as we're getting more ideas and funding, we're able to release a lot of different programming to our businesses.
And yet, I'm happy to give a little perspective on ByBlack and USBC, right? So the US Black Chambers, which many of you are probably familiar with, is an organization with over 170 different chambers around the country and over 300,000 members. But when it comes to creating a digital footprint, the USBC is really focused on policy. It's focused on chamber development. It's focused on the community and the connection that is a part of really being an entrepreneur and being in business. For ByBlack, we're really thinking about the digital component. So today, about 1 in every 50 Black-owned businesses has a ByBlack account. So they are creating that to be able to be found. Those could be restaurants, those could be construction companies, they could be everything in between. What we like to say is we've got everything from grocery essentials to garden equipment in terms of the products and businesses that people offer that you can find directly on our directory at www.byblack.us. And it costs nothing to do that. And one of the things that we really focused on is, when you spell ByBlack, it's not BUY Black, it's BYBLACK. And we think about that because we're thinking, what does it mean to build tools by Black communities, by Black individuals, by Black chambers of commerce, by Black businesses like yours? From our perspective, I think, as Olivia's been saying, we've had corporations that continue to reach out to us and want to expand and grow their footprint. So whether that's the NFL or the PGA, whether that's American Airlines, we are seeing a number of businesses, Verizon, that say, hey, look, we actually are interested in stepping up and bringing more opportunities to our businesses because they understand that all of this is both cyclical, but also that COVID has taught them in a lot of ways that diverse supply chains are secure and robust supply chains. Everyone going to the same 5 or 6 people to go get the same products and services creates bottlenecks that inevitably and is unequivocally going to create bad business practice. So these companies understand that it is a business essential to create diverse pipelines. And so they reach out to us saying, hey, can you help us make equity, but also make good business sense? And so from our perspective, we work with corporations across the spectrum to think about that in really, hopefully, meaningful ways. Maybe one of the things that we can also kind of jump into a little bit, and I recognize that there is so much research and information you can do on each of our websites to understand what and how to get certified. But Olivia, maybe you can give some perspective and some view in your mind on how to get certified. What is your philosophy on getting certified? How do people kind of enter into that? What kind of mindset they should be in to get certified? And kind of the value of that dual certification in that process.
Yeah, so certification on our end is pretty simple. We have a list of documents that you would need to provide as well as status qualifiers. So I will say one thing about us is our status qualifiers, we do ask for them because this is an awesome opportunity, right? And we want to make sure that we're giving it to the community and not people who are trying to sneak in to benefit from what we're trying to provide to our communities. So we that's one of the reasons why we ask for status qualifiers. But our process is pretty simple, especially once you have your documentation. And I will say for everyone on this call to definitely look into the Colchi Scholarship. I did see a question in the chat about that, and having somebody from my team actually look into it to be able to drop the link for that scholarship for you. But definitely look into your scholarships and the ones that we do have available first to see how that can help. Because a lot of times, I know the ByBlack certification is free, but a lot of times people are scared to spend money, right? You don't know where you're going to spend your money, what the benefits will be. And that's why I think looking into our scholarships first, especially our coaching, would be great start because it gives you kind of like the test run of being a part of the organization and what it can bring for you. So definitely look into that. My team, a few of them are actually on this call as well. They're always there and ready to help with any questions that you have. It's usually like a 30-day process once you get your documents in. If you have all your documents in, we can usually get you certified within 30 to 60 days. Um, and the documents usually require, like I said, status qualifier, tax documents, like your Schedule C, resume, bio, incorporation, and depending on what your business is, whether it's an LLC, a sole proprietor, C Corp, S Corp, some of the documents are different. But we're willing to work with you and what you have, and definitely here to answer any questions that you may have. You actually have a designated person per your state that will be able to help you walk you through application questions, but also no questions as far as document requirements.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And from our perspective, it's really fundamental to think about how do we try to think about these things in pathways and logically sort of organize this. And once again, if you go to www.byblack.us, you can check out the certification sort of section and landing page and see a number of documents that we tried to articulate for you all. But you can think about it kind of three ways. We look at it from proof of control, proof of ownership, and proof of identity. Control is, hey, do you actually manage this business on a given day to day? Like, can you demonstrate that? Proof of ownership is the documents around, hey, look, this, says that I'm getting money from this company that I, put in, that I actually have an ownership stake in this, that I can prove, whether that's through the different documents that I have or et cetera. And then the identity is obviously talking about you as a business owner, you as a person showing up and owning this business, you identifying as Black and providing us the perspective and the insight and the information that we need to be able to understand that. From our perspective, what we really talk about is this idea of a kaleidoscopic review. We recognize that there's no one singular piece of information that's going to completely make this streamlined or easy, right? Whether that's in your Blackness or that's in your ownership, there's going to be a number of different documents that we piece together to get to that insight. When we look at that, it's really important to be able to, based on your business structure, be able to have that. And Olivia talked about that, right? We have really tried to design a process where if you're an S Corp or you're a single member LLC, you have different documents, you have a different flow and a different experience that speaks to your style of business. If you are incorporated in California versus Delaware, there might be different documents that are required. And having that intentionality is really fundamental to us to try to get and close that gap. And I'll say this, yes, we have a completely at no cost certification, and that's great. We may not have the sophistication of being able to have someone handhold you. And that's important, realizing that you're getting different things in different processes, but also that for us, it's really important to try to make sure that if you can go through the process of ByBlack, then it's going to set you up well to be able to go get certified with NGLCC and the like. And so really trying to make sure that people understand that there hopefully are good entry points to getting certified that remove excuses, that remove the anxiety, letting you know that once again, as we were talking about this whole conversation about dual certification, doing this opens up doors to openly, hopefully get opportunities with NGLCC and et cetera, other organizations where you have certain identities that match up. Because there's a chance that you could be both veteran, Black, LGBTQ plus, there are a lot of things that you can be. And so really showing up and being aware of that and taking advantage of those things because different communities are having different relationships. We see a lot of value in that inherently. Maybe we could also unpack from your perspective, where are some successes that you've really seen over the past few years? It could be more recently, and I think that's always much more helpful, but maybe you can also speak to maybe the trend that you've seen around the acceptance and the excitement that you've been able to receive through the work you've been doing, Olivia.
You mean like to talk about some certification, like dual certifications with others? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
or you just even, successes that you've seen through the certification that with NGLCC has that you've been able to see kind of create. But I think that dual piece is actually really valuable as well.
yeah, so I'll touch bases on both. One, certification. I sometimes you get to hear business stories. Not everyone always wants to share them. And then sometimes you do get a lot of business owners that share. So We've had this year alone a lot of great feedback on our certification and how it's opened doors for a lot of businesses and business owners. Recently, we had a business owner reach out to us who actually, so every year at our conference, we do what we call a walk and talk. And those are just unofficial ways of networking with people. Our corporate partners there, our BEs are there, other businesses, and it's like a pair and go. So you get to walk, do a lap someplace early in the morning and have casual conversations. It's not an official matchmakers. And I have to say that because sometimes people come with the intentions of, oh, we might get a contract, but it's all about really getting to know people and networking. And I say that because recently we had someone who approached us to tell us that they got a contract from that walk and talk. So it was something that wasn't expected. And our conference is in August. So that was definitely a good amount of time difference from when they met them last year, August, to like 2 months ago when they've gotten that contract. But it was about building relationships, right? And I think a lot of people miss that part when they meet a corporate or meet someone else. It's like, hey, business, business, business. But there is a personal side to people. And when you connect with them, it gives them that reason to remember you and your business later on. So I say that because a lot of businesses have taken that route of networking and not just coming off as a push, right? We're all human. So if you're approaching me in a corporation and you're just coming with a business pitch, sometimes it's like, you forget me as a person. Hey, how you doing? Like, I'm a person as well to not just have business conversations. So we've had a lot of businesses who've recently taken that route and is coming back with contracts, smaller contracts. Some of them are just consulting and gotten contracts with some of our big corporate contract companies. So it's not about the excuse me, products you can produce, but also the services, right? There are companies that are looking for leadership consulting and like finances for their CEOs and other people. And that's where some people will find their niche and be able to get into that space. So certification, because I mentioned earlier, like you don't have to be looking for corporate contracts, but even in your sometimes consulting businesses, you have that space to enter into that and get those corporate contracts. And some of these people who have the corporate contracts were smaller consulting businesses that weren't expecting to get those contracts, but it's them being in the space of networking and being in that space with others to be able to, how should I say, to be able to gain the knowledge and really be able to connect with people. So that's been a lot of what we've been hearing from our certifications. Excuse me, been getting a lot of great feedback on companies connecting. But dual certification with us and ByBlack, of course, is still new. So we'll wait and hear of all your successes that come out of this. But we've also have people who are WeBank and women-owned businesses, a women-owned business as well as an LGBTQ-owned business who's actually just taken off because they have that space to be with the women-owned businesses and networking there, but also networking at NGLCC. And a lot of people, I will say, find that NGLCC is very welcoming. You can come and you be yourself. And that's a lot of what we hear when we travel and when people attend our conferences. It's like, I can be myself. I don't have to worry about how I'm presenting when I'm at the conferences. And that alone, I think, takes a lot off of someone, your anxiety, your stress, especially when you're coming into a space that you may not be familiar with. So, coming to the events and networking is a great way to one use your certification, but also see where it can where it can take you.
I will give a couple stats that I think are really relevant. And I think anytime I say, oh, look, this company got a contract, or this company got a contract, it is true. And it's also anecdata from our perspective. We know that we're doing good work. And you all hopefully understand that you're spending your valuable time doing that here. One of the things I'll say is that certifications are passports, they are not tickets. And so what does that mean is that, it might give you entry into an opportunity, but you still got to pay for your flight. You just got to, put all your stuff in the bag. You still got to get there. You still got to show up and do all of that work. What we are really trying to provide to you is an avenue and an entry point into so much more. 1 in 4 businesses that are on ByBlack said they got some sort of material financial value from being on our platform, right? 54% of businesses said, hey, look, when we did a review last year, that they would highly recommend this to another one of their business owners in their communities. That to us, that kind of they call it NPS, a Net Promoter Score, is a really good sign of what we are trying to do, which is get outside of moments and build momentum. And from our perspective, look, there is so much going on just in, and any given day, whether you're talking about this year, last year, or any year going forward, there will always be some sort of conversation about what should diverse businesses be thinking about and how they should be adopting or managing or moving forward. What we really want you all to understand is that from our perspective, those that take advantage of it and show up and go to the events, take advantage of the opportunities, take time to participate in these webinars, this is the kind of cultural capital and cachet that unlocks so much of that. The people who are a part of that 25% who got some sort of financial value are the folks that are coming to our conferences, the folks that are blowing up my email telling me about the success they're having because then I'm remembering that they're doing good business. Those are the folks that actually give us a really great holistic sense of the power of this collective work. Participating in that feedback loop is really fundamental. Olivia wants to be able to tell these good news stories. She wants to be your champion and vice versa. We need you to both show up and take advantage of both the free and paid services that we offer, but also let us know when they work for you and when they don't, because we really are advocates for you. I think that's a really important way to kind of set the baseline of the opportunity that we just see, that this is a way to kind of, a way to really kind of make a difference in your business and in your community, because you are giving other people permission to show up as their true selves as well. One of the things I think would be really valuable as we kind of come to a closer head, and we'll ask some questions. I know that Phil has kind of been keeping an eye out for us. I'd love for you to talk about some of the future and where you see the future of NGLCC and its certification, and how do you see it continuing to evolve as a tool and a use case for business owners really trying to kind of level up.
So as I mentioned, we've made a lot of headway from when we started the organization, or when the organization was started 20 plus years ago. I remember when I first came in to the organization, someone that I met was telling me that they came in and there was like only 10 certified suppliers. So to see that already we are at 2,800 suppliers and continuously growing is something really exciting. We have been setting goals to keep growing our supplier base, but being intentional about that as well. With us, we want to make sure that we're connecting our corporate partners with the right businesses. So we're being intentional about looking at retail businesses where a lot of our corporate partners may be looking for, or production or manufacturing. So we're trying to be more in that space to bring a lot diverse businesses to the certification as well, because that also will open up the door for you to network with them as well. It's really, like I said, about networking. We want to continue to bring that to like that safe space for our businesses, and that open door for our businesses to continuously come and network. So moving forward, I mean, even like our mentorship, I oversee our mentorship committee, and every year we bring in about 50 mentors. And this year we're trying, I mean, excuse me, 50 mentees. And next year we're trying to up that and get more corporate partners to partner with us as far as being mentors. So we're continuously thinking about ways to grow and to support our business owners. But also, I'm always open for feedback. And I tell my business owners that as well. We're here to make sure that you feel safe, that you feel valued and visible, and that you have spaces to grow and the opportunity to grow. And that's really what our goal here is, to make sure that we help our businesses grow and succeed in this current climate, but also the economy in general. So, our different programmings that we offer, like our Accelerate program and our iLead and those different cohorts, we still want to continuously do that so that we can bring different information to you, right? Things that you may not be looking for. Last month, or a few months ago, we did something with Mass Mutual about your financial future and looking forward, and that financial and family planning, which some people may not even think about when it comes to your business. But those are things that we're trying to look at in different sessions that we're trying to continuously bring so that we can continuously share the knowledge of what's out there for your business and your business growth. So, looking forward, I'm really excited about all that NGLCC has. I know it's kind of scary listening to what's happening in the world around us, but seeing our plans and the goals that we have and I have for our organization to continuously build our supplier base and make these connections is really exciting. So on our end, as I will say and continue to say, it's business as usual. We are still pushing through, and the growth part is something that we're still really excited about, and especially as we try to open our doors to these type of dual certifications and partnerships.
And I'll, be super brief. I will say as well, the USBC offers 14 free webinars a month to business owners like yourselves who are thinking about all the same things that Olivia was talking about. And it's really important for you all to take advantage of these things. Like, I think we often worry about, hey, who can we trust? And I think the world is full of things that are dubious, and then some things are just, flat out just wrong. Being able to come to trusted sources is a fundamental part of being able to build your business in a sort of thoughtful and thorough way, and know that you have good allies in that process. What I will also add is that, for us, we're really excited about on the ByBlack side, being able to help business owners be able to kind of aggregate all of these resources in one place. Today, we track about $10 million worth of grants that are going to business owners, whether that's at a state, local, or federal level, or whether they are private, a family grant, et cetera. We aggregate those things today, but we don't make them as accessible to you outside of paying for a grants list that you can access on our website. How do we bring that into one unified space? How do we let you know about all the RFPs and all the contracts that we're seeing? So you will see in the upcoming year a really robust and sort of codified and coalesced experience in our profiles for you all as business owners. When you're looking for different opportunities, you'll be able to see some of the opportunities when it comes to educational programming that we'll be keeping in mind. And then the other thing I'll just say is, in terms of the future, we also really recommend coming to the USBC conference that's happening in a few weeks. So it's easy to plug that in terms of like the immediate actionables, but those are places and spaces where opportunities are happening, and we want to be able to connect you and plug you into those things. And the door is open. And so, yes, there's a cost to that, but it's something that we really do believe is worth it in terms of all the opportunities that you can take advantage of. So what I will say is that you got in-person things you can take advantage of. We have digital experiences that we are currently offering that are great, and we will continue to evolve. And so I hope people can feel really excited about knowing they can invest in that. What I do want to do, is, because I know I'm getting blown up about this, is making space for some questions. I know you all are tired of hearing from just me. So I want to make it space for it, Phil. I'm not sure if you want to hop off of mute and give your 2 cents, but would love to hear what people are asking about.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Olivia. This has been very insightful, and we have a number of questions that have popped into the Q&A. And Olivia, you've been able to answer a few of them. I know that you mentioned some information about the scholarship, and so we shared some information there. But I want to take a more personal approach. We do have some questions that have come in. One from Victor Scotty. And Victor says, I am a hairstylist that runs a studio suite, Our Space, SPACE Studios, which provides transformative, affirming, and personalized salon experiences for Black, Brown, LGBTQIA folks. Are there other wellness professionals on your, are there other wellness professionals on your respective certifications?
Yes, so we have a slew of different industries that we cover, that is covered, but we do have a lot of wellness professionals. We have like yoga studios or people in that yoga space. Actually just certified somebody, I think last month, that's in that space. But we do have other hairstylists or other service provided professionals that are within our network. And I kind of mentioned before, those professionals may not always be looking for corporate contracts, but they are looking to network with other LGBTQ plus business owners and be able to market to them as far as like a space for them to feel safe and to be in.
I will, if I may, I know that Victor wasn't talking to me specifically, but I will say as well, and one, I spent the first like 3 minutes of that conversation just looking if I could react with like a hand clap or like one of the things, but I did not see that available. So what I will say is this, I applaud you in that work. I think that's really valuable. For us, as I said, we kind of done some research recently, and we were looking at consumer segments that had the most appetite for identifying as Black owned. Obviously, your work is inherently committed to the culture and to community. We saw that there was specifically beauty, healthcare. Those are the places that actually performed the highest when it came to getting certified, showing your certification on your products or your services, that had that attribution of an increase for consumers, right? We talked about consumers were 30% more likely to want to buy a product or learn more about a product. Consumers were more likely to spend between 1 to 5% more on a product when they saw that it actually identified as a Black-owned business. So the point being that you can actually provide quality services. You don't have to worry about discounting yourself to identify as a Black-owned business. That kind of stuff is really fundamental to this. And what I do want to say is that we have all kinds of businesses. We have 60,000 Black-owned businesses that are on ByBlack. Only about 2 to 3,000 of them are certified. But we have a number that cross across that Venn diagram who are on here, who are being found and saying, hey, look, I want to have consumers know that I'm a Black-owned business, that when I show up, I want them to understand it's not just a Black face that's in the store, but actually is running this business like a professional. That's also what I hope you will take in consideration as you're looking at certifications and the value of them.
Awesome. And thank you both for those responses. And our next question comes to us from Bridget Jackson from Nexus Public Relations. And Bridget's question is, how has the participation from federally funded businesses and government entities seeking business relationships fared in today's business political climate?
I don't know. I think I kind of mentioned this before, but for us, it's been a lot of business as usual. We still have a lot of corporate partners still signing up to do business with us. I don't know. I do a lot of research sometimes because I'm in this space, and they recently had shared some shareholder, I guess, minutes from a lot of corporations as far as like where they stand with DE&I and what their investors or shareholders are looking into. And if you get a chance, look that up. But there are still a lot of companies on there, despite, like I said, what you may see or hear, who are really dedicated to the supplier inclusion and diversity. And I will say too, I, coming from a procurement space, see supplier inclusion a little differently from just DE&I, because this is more of in the procurement space. This is where companies are spending their money, and it's not just about making sure that their employees are have employee resource groups. Now it's talking about the bulk of the businesses, and investors want to make sure that they're doing businesses with companies that are diverse, that do have diverse vendors, because we do know that's where you get more creativity, different point of views, different ways of doing things, is with diversity, right? So a lot of businesses are, like I said, are still trying to make sure that their supply base is diverse and not just their businesses and their employees.
If I can also add a few things to your question and to what I heard on the federal side, what I really also want people to be considerate of is that buying cycles are very long. And so the notion that because something is happening right now in the past 6 months, that they're going to change strategies that they've had for the past 3 years, they are meeting with suppliers 3 years in advance. They're vetting you, they're giving you a small contract for this, they're seeing how it works, they're referring you internally to somebody else. That kind of cycle, that kind of relationship management is something that exists devoid of all of the discourse. And so when you do good work, that stuff persists beyond that. And also, what's really important is what we want to talk about and keep in mind is that from where we're sitting, what we're seeing, what really is also kind of at question or is really kind of being thought about is how do we ensure that the business owners that we're talking to actually know how to navigate these kinds of relationships, whether that means, hey, how do we pivot now to having state contracts? Because there's so many states that are saying, look, you know what, we still want to do this work in terms of certain fulfillment, procurement goals, but also as well, people still work in these jobs. We've seen a lot of cuts with Doge. We have to be very honest with that. But a lot of the procurement teams still exist. And those people still represent the values, even if the organizations they operate in are having a lot more ambiguity. And so they're still navigating and trying to figure out, hey, look, I not only believe in the values of this kind of work, but I also believe in this company to do this work. And that just happens to overlap. That is also the way that we've seen it. What I will say is that we have seen a number of companies that have federal contracts that have been cut, but it's hard for me to easily articulate cause and effect. What I can more so say is that there have been cuts in federal spending, generally speaking. I don't know that it's necessarily specifically around the procurement projects that we're talking about. It's because of their diversity in specific. Projects that are aligned towards that are having struggles on top of that as well. But when you are doing work that is agnostic of that, we have not necessarily been able to attribute, oh, this is about identity in a specific way that we could articulate confidently.
Yeah, and I will just want to add on to that. There are, because Bridget, I did see your note, and there are a lot of people who are fearful of just putting their identity things out there. We do have some of our suppliers, honestly, that are like, I don't know if I should put that I'm NGLCC certified on my page because I don't know how people are going to perceive it or take it. So you will definitely run into those people in different corporates as well, who are changing their language. And Ron kind of brought that up, and I wanted to like hone down on it that a lot of corporations are just changing the way that they say things, right? And the way that they're communicating. But a lot of the programs are still the same. So from supplier diversity, you may hear like supplier inclusion or vendor inclusion or vendor diversity, or there's just so many different names that are being spun now to take away that quote diversity space to it, but still having all the same functions and doing the same work.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you both for that. And I'm going to try to combine a couple of questions for the sake of time. James Felton Keith of Inclusion Score, along with Victor Scotty, have a similar question here. With the NGLCC USBD by Black dual certification, do we need to resubmit everything or just reference the first certification that we have, whether it's NGLCC or by Black?
So right now, that's still something that I'm sure as organizations are working on, but as of now, you will have to submit both, but the documentations aren't that different. So if you have submitted one and you have the documentations from one organization, it's kind of like an easy to pull and then submit for the other organization. That would probably be something we work on later on in our partnership as far as maybe making a way more easier to complete that. But as of right now,
So I say yes, and I think it's because it's important to recognize you will still have to apply based on, equally, because there are things when it comes to identity that we cannot speak to. I have zero perspective with the depth that Olivia and her team have around the conversation around LGBTQ plus identity and vice versa when it comes around Black business. So, it's going to be important that you navigate and do both. What is really valuable, though, that we have thought about specifically on the ByBlack side, from the technology side, is we ask questions around how you self-identify and then are able to make those referrals over to NGLCC as per your interests, if you're interested in sharing that kind of stuff. So in that regard, the hope is that we can streamline the process to let people know, hey, look, this business is already ByBlack certified, and they have in previous documentation identified as such. And so when you do apply, we can provide that reference point as well. So I think that should give you some sense that we are in conversation, and we will continue to get better at conversation and better at building a language of discourse around your business and businesses that are thinking about participating in this dual certification.
Perfect, perfect. And we'll provide the links to both certifications to this audience in a post email that goes out. This last question comes to us from Brandon Mack. And I suppose we can ask this of both of you. How long does the ByBlack certification, how long does the NGLCC certification last? And do you have to recertify periodically?
yeah, so the NGLCC certification is a 3-year certification. You do have to certify after 3 years, but you won't have to provide all the same documents. Or we usually just try to change and make sure that like your business structure hasn't changed, your ownership hasn't changed, whether it's moved from 51% owned or not, or if it has, like what is that information? So basically, that's what our recertification process is. It's just making sure that nothing's really changed. And then we also get like your tax documents because it's been 3 years since we received it to make sure that nothing's changed. But in our sense, it's a really easy process as far as recertification. And then again, if you are a member of that affiliate chamber, the fee is waived. And if you're not, the fee is half of what it would have been if you would have done a full certification.
Yeah, our certification is 2 years, and it does require you to recertify, which effectively is a lot of the same fundamentals, same documentation, no change affidavits, and some certain tax documents to make sure that what you're saying around your business not changing matches up. But we try to really honor what is a process to keep things as smooth as possible.
Perfect. And with that, I'd like to ask both Ronald and Olivia to provide any parting thoughts before we close.
Sure. Share the knowledge, right? Not just from ByBlack or NGLCC, but both. Share the knowledge to your friends. I was so excited about this. I was actually on my Instagram telling all my friends. I don't usually do that, but I was sharing the information because, as I told Ron, supplier inclusion or diversity is such an amazing tool. And before I became in the sourcing procurement space, I didn't know about it. And then when I stepped in, I'm like, why don't we all know? Why doesn't my people know? Right? So share the knowledge. That's one, right? We don't want to gatekeep this type of information, but dual certification is amazing. You have the opportunity to network in two different groups, but still two combined groups, right? We're here together as a team, USBC and NGLCC, and you can be a part of both those teams as well and get the benefits from both organizations. As Ron said, there's so much stuff that ByBlack offers, and then there's so many stuff that NGLCC offers as far as programming, connections, virtual and in person. So I would definitely say to, as I tell my friends, to tap in and definitely share the knowledge in the space. And we're here if you have any questions on certification, the benefits, if you want to take a deeper dive because you just don't know. I understand it's your business, and sometimes it can be really nerve-wracking to step into a new space. But we are here for the betterment of the community, and so you're actually looking at people who care. So use this as a resource.
Well, this I'll say if Olivia says tap in, I'll say lock in. And I think to say that, from our perspective, we want you, my piece of advice is a couple things. Think about your consumer segment and how can you expand that? If you sell products to the federal government, can you sell it to the state government? Can you sell it to businesses? How can that same product potentially work well in a consumer segment? Not to overexpand yourself, but to realize that in a dynamic that things are so unsure, are there ways that have a cross pollination strategy that you can really adopt and consider? The other part is I will say join a Black Chamber of Commerce. There are we got Black chambers in Alaska and in Utah. We got Black chambers in places you didn't think that we had Black people, and that's because Black businesses are active, they are dynamic, they are diverse, and that they deserve to have community that are thinking about that. And then the other part I will say is join ByBlack. It's free, it has no cost, and we really, the only way this works, this bargain, this where you give us this information, we then are able to advocate for you, is because there are folks in there that we're able to sort of advocate and tell, hey, look, companies, state and local governments, you have no excuse to take tax dollars out of these communities and not buy from the businesses in them. And so we really need you to help us in participating in that. The last thing I'll say is stay Black, be Black, and do not be afraid to show up as yourself, whether it's because you're doing hair care services for Black and brown folks, or you're building construction and no one ever knows who your business is. Your identity matters, and it gives other people belief that they can also do it. And so I hope you consider that as a part of the business strategy as you're going forward.
All right. Very, very powerful last words. Share the knowledge, tap in, lock in, join. Very powerful calls to action. Olivia, Ronald, on behalf of our president, Ron Busby Sr., our board, our staff, and our chambers, I want to thank you both for delivering a powerful and engaging session to our audience. We want to thank you for tapping in, locking in, and staying in with us throughout the course of this webinar. We look forward to sharing more information with you, and we look forward to serving you in your business journey. So with that, we will wrap up and close. Be on the lookout for a post-event email coming at the end of the day with the resources that were shared with us today. You all have a great day. Thank you, and we'll see you at the conference.